Once again, a very good morning to all of you on the last day of our 3 days National Online Faculty Development Program on Research Methodology, Tools and Techniques. I welcome our today's renowned speaker, Professor Anil Mehta sir. He is currently working as a professor, School of Legal Studies, Banasthali University, Banasthali. Professor Mehta is former professor and head, Department of Business Administration, former director, University 5-year Law College, and former director, Center for Entrepreneurship Development, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. The topic of today's session is methods of data collection for research. As we know, research is impossible without good data collection. So today's topic is very important and useful for all of us to learn something new. Friends, I will send today's assignment along with the link of feedback form in the chat box of Zoom and YouTube Live at the end of this session. The 3 assignments, assignment 1, 2, and 3, day 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which I will give you at the end. These 3 assignments and the feedback form are mandatory to submit by all the registered participants for e-certificates. The certificates will be sent on mail IDs within 7 days. That is up to 7th June. Up to 7th June, you will all get the certificates. So before 7th June, please have some patience. We will send up to 7th June. And we have also created WhatsApp group of participants in which we will send all the relevant information. If you have still any query, you can WhatsApp me anytime. We are also planning to conduct online workshop related to academic writing, skill development, which covers writing of good research papers, SPSS, etc. Skill development in the form of, in the month of June, in the month of coming June. We are also planning to post some good academic videos by experts related to the topics of commerce, management, and research methodology on our YouTube channel, Inspira Research Association. Last but not the least, we are thankful to all the participants participating in our program. We treasure your contribution and time with us, and we hope you all have come away with useful and profitable ideas. We look forward to seeing you in our next event. Thank you. Now I invite Professor S.S. Moody. उधर आवाज आ रही है?
Good morning to all dear friends. We have completed 2 days program very successfully. On day 1, we have covered technological perspectives of research methodology. On day 2, yesterday, we have covered research paradigm from hypothesis to thesis in detail, very systematically. Resource persons on day 1, renowned Professor Dr. Rana Singh, Vice Chancellor, Sanskriti University, Mathura, and on day 2, Professor Dr. N.D. Mathur from Manipal University were delivered their presentations in such a way that we received appreciation and thanks from almost all the participants and viewers. Fortunately, one of them, Professor Dr. N.D. Mathur Saab, is also with us today also. I heartily welcome to him to join today also. Thank you very much. I welcome today's resource person, renowned Professor Dr. Anil Mehta Sahab is also delivering academic talks on time management, skill development, research methodology, and many current topics, etc., at various parts of the country and abroad also, like USA, Nepal, Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. I welcome all dignitaries and participants who have joined and are joining the program. Now, I hand over to Professor Dr. Anil Mehta to deliver his presentation.
अनम्यूट करूंगा सर. ये लीजिए, करिए आप.
लोग सुनेंगे.
Good morning, all of you. Respected Professor S.S. Modi, esteemed friend, Professor N.D. Mathur, Dr. Ravi Modi, Dr. Rajiv Srivastav, dear Dr. Aarti, Dr. Anupam Jain, Dr. Anjula, and many other friends. At the outset, I congratulate Professor S.S. Modi for organizing such a wonderful workshop. On the day one, Professor Rana elaborated about various technological aspects and use of apps and research. Yesterday, Professor N.D. Mathur has beautifully described the entire research process, right from formulation of hypothesis to submission of final thesis. In fact, it was a good learning experience for all of us. Professor N.D. Mathur has covered almost all the important aspects of research process. What I found yesterday's presentation and Professor Rana's lecture, that these resource persons have tried to simplify complex things in a very lucid and in a very simple way. Though research methodology is quite a complicated subject, but the way the previous resource persons have deliberated upon, perhaps that has really enhanced the importance of this particular workshop. So I will be adopting the same track, and I will try to make things as simple, as easy as possible. Of course, collection of data and taping various resources to search for the data is a very common subject. But while planning this particular workshop, we thought that perhaps data collection is core of any research. In spite of adopting the latest technology, in spite of using all the apps which are available, if data is not authentic, or if we have set the proper hypothesis, formulated the objectives, use the best research design, but again, if we have not been able to collect correct data, if we have not been able to take the right sources of data, then perhaps research will not give the authentic results. From the ethical point of view also, it is very much essential for any researcher that he or she should honestly search for the data reliability and authenticity must be verified, and whatever data is gathered, they should truly represent the universe. So in today's session, we'll be talking about various sources of data collection. What are their relative advantages, disadvantages, and what are the basic guidelines which must be followed while collecting data from various resources. Yeah, just a minute. Just bear with me for a minute. Slideshow. So the first question is, what is data? Basically, data can be defined as the quantitative and qualitative value of a variable, which can be understood in terms of number, image, words, figures, facts, or ideas. We all know that researches can broadly be classified into two categories. Number one, quantitative research. Number two, qualitative research. Similarly, data can also be classified in two parts, the qualitative data and quantitative data. So it means that when we talk in terms of data, in research methodology, it is not the numeric, but equally important is collecting the quality data in the form of certain statements, in the form of certain perceptions, emotions, feelings, etc. And when we use the term data in singular term, then it is the lowest unit of information from which other measurements and analysis can be done. So obviously, as already mentioned, that data is one of the most important and vital aspect of any research study. Now, what is data collection? Just a minute. Sorry. Data collection is a process, and it is basically concerned with searching or exploring the source of data and using various steps to gather the data. It is basically described as a process of preparing and collecting data. Data collection should be done in a very systematic manner, and that's why it is said that data collection is basically systematic gathering of data from for a particular purpose from various sources that has been systematically observed, recorded, and organized. And obviously, data is the basic input for any decision-making process in research. Broadly speaking, data can be classified into two parts. The first one is primary data. Primary data is that data which is collected fresh and for the first time. The data has been gathered exclusively for the subject of research for the first time. They are most original in character. It means that primary data is not available previously. Researcher gathers the data for the first time, keeping it in view the objective of the problem or to solve the research questions. As far as the secondary data is concerned, obviously secondary data is that data which is collected by someone else, not for this particular research study, but the researchers or the gathering organization has collected the data for their respective purpose, but researchers can also use these data if they are relevant for reaching to a certain conclusion. So obviously, this data has already passed through various statistical process. Both type of data have their own advantages and disadvantages as well. One thing is very clear that in most of the researches in social sciences, we cannot rely exclusively either on secondary data or the primary data. We will have to use both kind of data depending upon the nature of research. In fact, if any research is solely based on secondary data, then perhaps sometimes its authenticity may be questioned also, because data is not tailored to that particular research problem. So we'll be talking about both the data collection method one by one. The first one is collection of primary data. So there are several methods of gathering primary data, particularly in survey and descriptive research. Descriptive research, we obtain primary data either through observation or through direct communication with respondent in one form or the other through personal interviews as well. Of course, besides interviews, there are some other methods of data collection also. One thing is very clear, whether we are conducting research in science, social science, management and commerce, humanities, or in the area, we cannot underrate the importance of gathering primary as well as secondary data. Now, what are the advantages of primary data? Primary data is having its own distinct advantage. Obviously, the first and the foremost important advantage of primary data is that primary data solely target to the problem issue. So obviously, primary data is always tailor-made data, which is directly addressed to the problem. Secondly, data interpretation will be better in case of primary data. They are more accurate if researcher has gathered the data in a very systematic and scientific manner. Then certainly the data authenticity will be more as compared to secondary data, where perhaps if the data has not been properly collected, or since we have not gathered the data, so in that case sometimes there is always doubt in the accuracy of the data. Similarly, as already mentioned, that primary data always address to specific research problems or issues. But the problem is that perhaps it's not easy for the researcher to gather the data because primary data is not available ready-made. So there may be cost issue. Getting primary data is time-consuming also. More resources are required. Sometimes you require to appoint some investigators also. The research is quite extensive. So cost aspect is also there. Similarly, if the respondents are not giving the accurate feedback, the kind of the data that we require, the kind of information that we require, if the respondents are not giving them properly, then again there will be a problem. And similarly, to gather the primary data, we require a lot of skills as well as the labor. So of course, demerits are there as well as merits are there. So depending upon the kind of research, how extensive the research is, accordingly, we should try to overcome the limitations also. Of course, cost aspect is there, time aspect is there, but certainly keeping it in view, the advantages of primary data collection, they are very important or significant. Now, as far as the sources of primary data is concerned, broadly speaking, there are 4 important sources of primary data which we'll be discussing at length. The first one is observation method. Number 2, interview method. Number 3, questionnaire method. And 4th is collecting data through schedules. So let's begin with the first important method of or source of primary data, that is observation method. It is the most commonly used method, especially studying relating to the behavioral science. When we want to know the actual situation, when we want to know that how the people react, how the respondents react, what is their feeling, how they function, then perhaps observation method will be most useful. Now, I would like to cite one live example from my personal experience. Few years ago, I was invited to conduct a training program in a nuclear power corporation nearby that Kota Rawat Bhata plant. It was a program of 5 days on organizational development and team building. And the program was designed for the senior scientist. The total number was 30. So on the very first day, when I reached to the training hall, I found that it was a round table settings and their names were also lying on the respective places where the scientists have to occupy their chair. But to my surprise, there were 2 nameplates lying on a small table. So I was quite surprised that why these 2 nameplates are there and why these 2 scientists, senior scientists, were supposed to sit separately. So when everybody came, then I inquired from these 2 scientists that why a separate chair has been put for them. So they introduced themselves that, sir, we are the observers of this training program. What I found that all the 5 days till the training program continued, these scientists were there every day, right in the morning at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they were taking quite extensive notes. Without participating or involving themselves in the proceedings of the training program. On the valedictory session on the 5th day, there was an agenda item, observational reports by the observer. And to my surprise, these 2 scientists prepared a very extensive report in the form of a feedback.
Very good morning to...
They gave a very extensive feedback. They collected a lot of data about the proceedings of the program. And there were some plus points of the training program, and they also identified certain areas where further improvement will be required in the successive programs, because I had to conduct various series of programs for that organization. So every time I found the same system in that organization, and what I found that in my first program and the last program, around 8 programs I conducted, in the 8th program, the content, the methodology, the training aids completely changed. So it's a very useful method of gathering the information and to improve the systems also. So similarly, the research observation method can be effectively used. So obviously, What is required is that when observation method is used to gather the information and data, then scientific tools and methods should be used, and obviously recordings must be done in a very systematic order. So obviously it is subjected to check and control as far as their reliability or its validity is concerned. So obviously under this method, the information is sought by way of an on investigation, on if a direct observation, without asking from the respondents also many times. So obviously this method is very useful to get the first-hand information. Now, as far as observation method is concerned, when it is used for data collection, it can be classified into 6 important categories: the structured observation, unstructured observation, participants observation, non-participant observation, controlled observation, and uncontrolled observation. Obviously, in case of structured observation, everything is pre-planned. It means that what will be observed, why it will be observed, how it will be recorded, what will be the condition under which the observation will take place. Everything is well defined, predefined. That is referred as structured observation. Even the participants also know, the respondents also know that they are being closely observed. But when the observation is to take place without these characteristics to be thought in advance, it is referred as unstructured observation. There is one limitation of the structured observation, since the participants know that they are being observed. When everything is planned, then sometimes we don't get the natural response of the participants. But in case of unstructured observation, the observers can observe in a very natural setting, and there will not be any boundary as far as the observation is concerned. So both structured and unstructured observation will have their own advantage and limitation. Similarly, in order to get the natural feedback and the real feel, sometimes the observers become part of the group. They are supposed to function or behave as a part of the group, so they can feel, they can perceive the things, and that perception can provide a true feedback. It is a very good observation as far as the qualitative research is concerned. But when the observer observes as a detached imaginary without any attempt on his part to experience through participation what others feel, the observer is termed, that observation is termed as non-participants observation. So here the observer is independent, he is very well identified, participants are also knowing it in advance that this person is observing their proceedings. It is referred as non-participant observation. Similarly, if the observation takes place in the natural setting, it may be termed as uncontrolled observation, but when it takes place according to pre-arranged plans involve experimental procedure, the same is then termed as controlled observation. So uncontrolled observation is quite close to unstructured observation, whereas controlled observation is quite similar to the structured observation. Here, the difference only is that here the conditions, the environment is also controlled or uncontrolled. So obviously it's a very good method, particularly for getting the information about the qualitative research. Particularly here, the role of observer is very important. Preferably the researcher himself, or if he or she has appointed somebody as an observer, he should be very clearly given instruction in advance, what is to be observed, how it is to be observed, how the information should be recorded, and how this information should be presented before it is used. Now, what are the advantages of is observation method is used? Obviously, observation is very useful because here the subjective biasness is eliminated if observation is done accurately. Secondly, the information obtained under this relates to what is currently happening. It means that it is most current, most fresh information. So there will not be any time lag between the occurrence of any incident and gathering of data. So it is a ready-made or fresh information that can be gathered through observation. And obviously, this method is independent of respondents' willingness to respond. So no need that respondent may respond verbally because observer can observe and he can make his or her notes and record it. But obviously, there are certain limitations also. Obviously, observation method is relatively expensive as compared to the other methods. Information provided through observation is limited. It is quite difficult to quantify the information through observation, and sometimes certain unforeseeable factors may interfere with the observational task also. So obviously, the conditions might be natural, but there are certain situations and circumstances which becomes unforeseeable or uncontrollable. So in that case, the data or the information may not be accurate in such case. But in spite of these limitations, observation method is very useful. Particularly, I already mentioned that when we want to observe the behavioral aspect, the perception, the behavior, and the feeling, that can very well be identified through observation method. The second important primary data method, collection method, is interview method. So obviously, it involves the presentation of oral verbal stimuli and reply in terms of oral verbal responses. So this method can be used through personal interview and, if possible, through telephonic interviews also. Now, whenever the researcher wants to gather the extensive information, again, whenever the researcher wants that the respondent should give the first-hand feedback about his own views, feelings, behavior, then interview method can be very effectively used. So it requires interviewer ask questions generally in face-to-face contact to the other person or persons, or telephonic interviews can also be conducted. Now, the interviews can be of two types again, that is direct personal investigation or indirect personal or oral investigation. When those who are obviously related with the subject of that particular problem, they are directly influenced or connected, and if such persons are interviewed, it is referred as direct personal interviews. But if those who are having a good knowledge about that particular problem or issue, they may not be directly connected with the problem, but they are having good knowledge, then such persons can also be interviewed, and in that case, it is referred as indirect oral investigation. So obviously, the interview method is an in-depth method of research, data collection, and that's why it is quite intensive in nature. So obviously, this is what this slide clearly reflects, that what is direct interview or direct interview. Now, as far as the interviews are concerned, like observation, they can be structured interviews, they can be unstructured interviews, they can be focused interviews, clinical interviews, and non-directive interviews. Obviously, in case of structured interviews, obviously it is thoroughly planned even to that level that what questions are to be asked from the respondent, they are also pre-decided. So the biggest advantage of a structured interview is that we can have uniformity in questions, and obviously all the responses can later on can be tabulated also. So obviously the consistency can be maintained about the information in case of structured interviews. But in case of unstructured interviews, the interviewer will have some discretion about the kind of questions which are to be asked from the respondent, keeping it in view the conditions or situation or the requirement. There may be some variations also. So if flexibility will be available to the interviewer as far as unstructured interviews are concerned, as we know that conditions might be different, there might be a lot of differences as far as the respondents are concerned. Sometimes the researchers feel that this particular respondent may give me some additional information also. In such case, unstructured interviews will be quite suitable or useful. So in case of unstructured interviews, we can get many other information beyond the set type of questions which are asked. Similarly, focused interviews are always a very specific problem based, and obviously they're meant to focus attention on the given experience of the respondent and its effect. So how to a particular situation the interviewee has experienced or felt, he can narrate his or her own experiences. So that is referred as focused interviews. Similarly, clinical interview is concerned with broad underlying feelings or motivation or with the course of individuals' life experiences. So obviously, clinical interviews can be asked, particularly in case of psychology, and such interviews can be conducted from the very important respondents where their statement carry a significant weightage. And as already mentioned, that in case of non-directed interviews, the interviewer's function is simply to encourage, obviously, to the respondent to talk about a given topic with a bare minimum or direct questioning. So obviously here the task of the interviewer is just to initiate the interview, and then he speaks less, asks less question, and encourages the interviewee to speak more. Obviously, in all such cases, it is better to take the notes or to record the proceedings of the interview. Obviously, conducting interview like normal interview is a skill, and particularly for the research, those who are conducting interview should have a clear idea in mind what the problem is, why the interview is required, what is to be asked, and obviously how to encourage the respondent to give as much information as possible about the problem identification and the probable solutions also. Now, what are the advantages if interviews are conducted? Obviously, more information, and that too in greater depth, can be obtained. And similarly, sometimes we get the personal information if it is required, and this information is available easily. Similarly, samples can be controlled more effectively. So obviously, those who are really connected with the problem, they can be approached and interviews can be conducted. So there will be more control as far as the interviews are concerned, because you are getting the direct information from the person from whom the information is really required, and these interviews can be easily controlled, obviously. Now, what are the demerits of such this method? That is, again, it is quite expensive, particularly when large number of interviews are to be conducted. there will be possibility of biasness also as far as the interviewer is concerned, and particularly in case non-structured interviews. So obviously, the kind of information that is related to the perception and the feeling of the interviewer, accordingly, the questions can be asked, and there will be an element of biasness in that case. And secondly, this method is quite time consuming also, and similarly, organization requires the selection and training of the persons, the field staffs who can conduct the interviews. So there are limitations, there are advantages also of interview method. Similarly, interviews can be taken telephonically also. This method of collecting information consists of contacting respondent on telephone itself. We all are experiencing such kind of interviews quite frequently nowadays, and it is sometimes quite irritating also. But select persons can be approached through the networking, and questions can be asked on telephonically also. And again, there are certain merits and demerits of this method. Obviously, it is more flexible as compared to the mailing method. Obviously, it is faster. Obviously, it is cheaper also as compared to the personal interview. And obviously, in case of telephonic interview, when we have approached to the respondent through some connectivity, then the high rate of respondent will be there. So obviously, there are certain merits also if we conduct the interviews through telephone. There are certain demerits also. Obviously, surveys are restricted to respondents for considered as answers only. Respondent may not take interest. Then again, perhaps this method will be total failure. Questions had to be short on, particularly on to the point in case of telephonic interviews, and possibility of biasness. Again, like interview, there will be possibility of biasness also. Now, another important method for primary data collection is focused interview. Obviously, focused interview is quite similar to the group discussions. What can happen in this focused interview is that basically it is a carefully planned discussion to obtain perceptions of a defined interest areas. It comprised of approximately 7 to 10%. It may be 6, it can be at the most 9 or 10 persons, because if the group is larger, then there may be mismanagement and chaos also. And obviously, the facilitator may initiate that discussion and collect many information through the discussions of the group members. And obviously, what is required here is that the interviewer, the moderator, or facilitator must be a trained and skilled person in conducting these focused interview discussion. So obviously, focus groups are very important to collect the qualitative data. It is quite useful to determine the feelings, perceptions, and manner of thinking of participants regarding products, service programs, and obviously the opportunities, etc. What we find here, whether it is observation method or interview or focus group, they are very useful, very important to elicit the qualitative information. What are the merits of focus group? They are quick and economical. Involvement of members will be there. Members will feel they are actively participating in that discussion, as well as in the research process, useful for obtaining the qualitative information, and obviously sometimes they are quite useful for hypothesis generation also. So obviously, like other methods, there are certain demerits also. Obviously, focus groups may not provide the statistical data, again, useful for qualitative information, can't generalize to the target population, less control over information obtained during the focus group discussion. Sometimes it is dominated by the participants also. So obviously here, the role of the facilitator is extremely important. He should first define exactly the purpose of the discussion. What is the problem area? Why this research is important? Why the views of the group members are important? And then every member of that group should be encouraged or motivated to provide their feedback or their ideas or views also. So here the facilitator must direct the focus group to elicit as much information as possible. Now, apart from these methods, nowadays there are certain other methods also to gather the primary data collection. They are basically the mechanical devices which will help in gathering the information, and they are part and parcel or of that observation, or they supplement the observation method. Like we can use the eye camera to record eyes focus on certain sketch, like psychogallometer to measure the body excitement or visual stimuli. Then motion picture camera to record movements of body at the time of purchase, or similarly audiometer concerned to TV, useful to know channel, program, preference of people, etc. So nowadays many mechanical devices are available through which we can gather lot many data, and they can be utilized in various marketing or behavioral science related decisions. Now we are coming to the other important method, that is questionnaire. As we know that the questionnaire method is most popular, widely used method of data gathering. We often advocate, we support this method, particularly in business and management researches, and we encourage our research scholars to prepare a good questionnaire so that most of the quantitative or numerical information can be gathered effectively. If a good questionnaire is prepared, then perhaps it will serve significant purpose as far as the research method is concerned. So what is a questionnaire? A questionnaire is a set of questions for gathering information from individuals. You can administer questionnaire by mail, telephone, using face-to-face interviews, as handouts, or nowadays, perhaps this collecting data from that Google is quite useful and very effective. And nowadays, most of the researchers are using Google to gather the information. And here, obviously, series of questions can be asked to the individuals to obtain the information, statistically useful information about a given topic. When properly constructed and administered properly, questionnaire becomes a vital instrument to gather the information. Obviously, questionnaires, I already mentioned, can be printed or it can be typed, and obviously it can be provided in a definite defined form or format, and obviously it can be mailed to the respondent, or we can gather it through Google also nowadays, and respondents have to answer the question on their own. Now, what are the advantages if questionnaire method is used? So obviously, low cost is one of the major advantage of using questionnaire as a tool for data gathering. It is free from the biasness on the part of interviewer, because there will not be any direct interaction, the face-to-face interaction between the researcher and the respondent. And moreover, the respondent can fill up the questionnaire at his or her convenience, so enough time will be available to him. And similarly, respondents who are not easily approachable can also be reached effectively. So it's a very good method, and particularly whatever information we are gathering through questionnaire, it can be quantified. Later on, it can be classified, tabulated, interpreted, and we can use various research tools and techniques to analyze the data, and we can test the hypothesis also. Now, what are the demerits of questionnaire? Obviously, there are certain demerits also, like low rate of return of the daily field in questionnaire, bias due to non-response. Similarly, it can only be used when respondents are educated and cooperating. Once the questionnaire is circulated, then researcher will not have much control on it. It cannot be altered or changed, and perhaps it is quite difficult to know whether willing respondents are the truly representative or not. Sometimes it happens that we circulate the questionnaire and not the actual respondent, but some other person has filled up the questionnaire, which will defeat the purpose of circulating the questionnaire. Now, since it's an important method, we'll be discussing about framing the questionnaire at length. What are these types of questionnaires and questionnaire? Basically, questionnaire can be paper-based or it can be electronic also. As far as the questionnaire is concerned, it can be structured questionnaire, which is either the close-ended questionnaire or it can be open-ended questionnaire also. As far as the structured questionnaire are concerned, it is predominantly or closed questions which produce data that can be analyzed quantitatively for patterns and trends. The agenda is entirely predetermined by the evidence and provide little flexibility for respondent to qualify their answers. So obviously, whatever options are available, the respondent will have to choose any one of these. So obviously, there will not be any flexibility or discretion to respond by the respondent. As far as you just see the kinds of close-ended questionnaires that can be framed, it can be in the form of yes-no question. For example, there may be one question, do you have a library membership card? So respondent will have to either say yes or no. There may be multiple choice questions also. For example, what purpose do you visit for library? Then there may be multiple choice that can be given, like to read the newspaper, to refer the books, to borrow and return books, or to browse the internet. Similarly, these closed questions can be scaled question also. So obviously, in closed questions and the scaled questions, respondents, the responses are graded on a continuum. For example, rate the appearance of the product on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most preferred appearance. So just see the example of this Likert scale or rank order. So they are basically the scale question. So in Likert scale is commonly used in survey research. It is often used to measure the respondent's attitude by asking the extent to which they agree or disagree. Just see one example here. The question is, to what extent the information obtained from the web-based resources are useful for you. So a respondent can encircle or take any of the options which are available. So it can be a 5-point or 4-point scale question. Or similarly, ranking can be given. So obviously, here the ranking can be given from 1 to 10, and accordingly, the information can be compiled, tabulated, and inferences can be drawn. As far as the unstructured questionnaires are concerned, it can be referred as open-ended questionnaire. So obviously, here the respondent will have discretion to give his feedback. So obviously, here there is no boundary and respondent can give his response in bit length also. For example, what are the facilities and services do you expect from your library? And then the respondent is allowed freely to express his or her views about this particular question. they are open-ended questions. So obviously, open-ended questions are having their own importance because sometimes there might be some other options, some other views also that we can elicit through open-ended question. The ideal situation will be where a questionnaire comprising of both open-ended and close-ended questions. Most of the questions should be close-ended, but some questions can be open-ended also. So that is referred as partially structured questionnaire or semi-structured questionnaire, or that is also referred as a mixed approach of questionnaire. For example, just see one question. What purpose do you use web-based research? So there can be 4 or 5 options. And then in the last we can write any other, then please specify 1, 2, 3, 4 or so on. So this question is comprising of both open-ended and close-ended part. There can be contingency questions also in a questionnaire. A question that is answered only if the respondent gives a particular response to a particular or previous question. So the respondent will qualify to respond the next question only when he gives a particular option in the previous question. For example, do you have a computer knowledge? Now the options are yes or no. Then in the second part, if yes, so obviously if the respondent is ticking yes, then only he is qualified or eligible to respond to this question. Such questions are referred as contingency question. Now, there are certain guidelines. Since questionnaires are very important tool for gathering the data, so any researcher must be very cautious in designing the questionnaire, and these guidelines must be followed. Every question should be given a number. The order of questions should be quite uniform or consistent. In fact, there should be one particular order of a question. It means that there should be some coordination or consistency as far as the order of question is concerned. Check the spelling of the question statement twice at least. There should not be any punctuation mistake. Do not use the offensive language. The language must be very polite. Avoid double meaning where the meaning itself is ambiguous. Avoid such questions while designing your questionnaire. If there are any difficult terms in the questionnaire, then also explain them. So if we are using abbreviation, some technical terms, some difficult terms, then they must be explained. Avoid unnecessary questions. No question should be inserted in a questionnaire which has no relevance or no meaning as far as the research objective is concerned, or where the responses will not be utilized in the research report. And similarly, questionnaire should not be very lengthy, not too brief. That information which is already available from other sources, maybe from secondary data, such questions should also be avoided. Know the academic and mental capacity of the target population. Here, the group might be quite heterogeneous, diverse. Sometimes there might be language problem also. If people are not familiar with, suppose, English, then Hindi translation must be given in the same questionnaire, or a separate questionnaire comprising of that particular segment should be circulated. There are certain personal or emotional questions which should be asked at the end, not in the beginning. As far as I personally feel that unless it is really required, such questions should not be included. But if there is any relevance, then such questions should be included at the end of the question. Don't ask an elaborate answer even in case of the open-ended question. Use polite language. Don't write questions that already contain the answer in the question, obviously. And let the respondent know that their privacy will be ensured. Sometimes there might be some reluctancy as far as the responses are concerned, and particularly many times the respondents don't give the response because of that, perhaps if they feel that confidentiality will not be maintained. So they must be ensured complete confidentiality will be maintained, and this question is only used for the academic and research purpose, which will be used for only the research purpose. So what you find here, we can say that the questionnaire can be of various type, like open-ended, it can be closed-ended. You'll find in this slide certain examples also, and attitudinal scale also. There might be leading question. As far as possible, leading questions should be avoided, because in leading question, perhaps we are influencing the respondent to respond according to the wish of the researcher. So these questions should be avoided. So these are the various types of questions which can be included in the questionnaire. Now, the other important tool is schedules. Sometimes there may be some misunderstanding between the questionnaire and the schedule. Basically, schedules are being filled in by the enumerators who are specially appointed for this purpose. So the basic difference is that schedules are being filled by the enumerator who is appointed for this purpose. This enumerator will carry the questionnaire. He will approach the respondent personally and get his oral feedback, and then he will fill up the schedule. So these enumerators, along with the schedule, visit to the respondent and put to them the questions and recorded the replies in the space meant for this purpose. So enumerator may explain the aim and objective of the investigators or the research. They may also remove the difficulties which any respondent may feel in understanding the implication of a particular question or any term. So the advantage is that if the question is quite complicated or difficult to understand, then enumerator may further explain it, and this requires the selection of enumerator for filling up the schedules or assisting the respondent to fill up the schedules. And enumerator should be carefully selected, because the success of this method will depend upon the enumerator. Now, apart from the primary data, let us talk about this secondary data also, that what are the methods of collection of this secondary data. As already discussed, that basically secondary data is that data which is already available. This data has been gathered for some other purpose. They are already available, and now the researcher is using this available data for his or her own purpose. So obviously, this data may be either published or unpublished. Researcher must be very careful in using secondary data, because such data, as already mentioned, that they may not be related with the research that the researcher is carrying. So only such secondary data should be used which is really relevant, related with the problem statement, or whether it is fulfilling the objectives or not. Now, before I'm talking about this second data, one thing which I would like to further add here, because I already mentioned that questionnaire and schedules are understood similar to each other, but they are not. Just see through this this chart that how the questionnaire differs from the schedule. Obviously, questionnaires are generally sent through mails, but in case of schedule, they are obviously filled in by the enumerator. Obviously, no further assistance is available from the sender, but here the enumerator helps to the respondent in getting it filled. Obviously, questionnaire is relatively cheaper as compared to the schedule. Obviously, in case of questionnaire, the response is relatively high, but here the response is perhaps non-response is less. It is not always clear who replies in case, because you are not having any control as far as the questionnaire is concerned once it is dispatched. But in case of enumerator, obviously the information is collected from the respondent directly. He is well known. Questionnaire filling is a slow process, but here in case of schedule, it is relatively fast. It can be used, obviously, in case of questionnaire, no personal contact. In case of schedule, there will be a direct personal contact. Questionnaire can be used only when respondent is educated and cooperative, but in case of schedule, even less educated person can also respond through the help of the enumerator. And obviously, in case of questionnaire, wider distribution is possible, which is not possible as of schedule. So this is in addition to we discussed about the questionnaire and the schedule. Coming to the secondary data, let's see what are the merits and demerits of secondary data. As far as secondary data is concerned, obviously, secondary data is very often cheap and quick. It covers wide geographical area, longer orientation period will be there. But in case of demerit, what you find that no specific, or it doesn't fulfill the specific needs, accuracy is poor, data may not be updated, and sometimes the accessibility may not be up to the mark also. So there are problems again, and while gathering the second data, these limitations should be taken into consideration. Obviously, in case of secondary data, what is important is that again we may approach the variety of sources of gathering the data. Available books may contain a lot of information and data. Again, there might be journals and periodicals on the research area or subject from where we can gather the information. Similarly, newspapers and magazines. Nowadays, a large number of journals are available on net also, so we can tape the e-journals also. Journal websites are there. There are unpublished personal records also that can be used. And similarly, government also provide like census information regularly. So obviously, there are a lot of sources to gather the secondary data. In fact, there are certain institutions which are providing secondary data, but they are not free of cost. These sources are referred as syndicated data. The websites are a very useful source of information, but again, the reliability must be checked because a lot of information which is available on net may not be true or reliable. So here, authenticity of source must be checked. And similarly, unpublished thesis, unpublished records can also be taped. Apart from that, if the research is related to a particular organization or department, then the internal records of that organization is also very useful, provided that the researchers or investigators are having accessibility to the internal records of these organizations. So obviously, if these organizations are convinced that it is quite beneficial for them to provide such records, because ultimately research will give the benefit to these organizations. If there is a proper networking, then the letters, the files, the internal records, the annual reports, and other documents can also be tapped. So that is offered as secondary source of data. So I would say that data collection is extremely important because the accuracy or the authenticity of research will greatly depend upon the quality of data. No one source of collecting data is foolproof. Obviously, every source of data is having its limitations. It is having certain advantages also. What is required is that first we should see what the problem is. Number one, what is basically, what are the objectives of that particular research? What is the hypothesis? What is our sample? What kind of outcome or results we want to attain? What is the authenticity of the data? It means that whether we will be able to provide that data accurately or not, whether the data is, particularly in case of the second data, whether the data has been properly updated or not. In case of secondary data, again, the organization who has gathered that data, what are its credentials, what is its goodwill, what is its authenticity, that is also important. Or whether the secondary data that we are using, whether it is having the proper relevance or not, that must be checked, tested, and verified. I already pointed out that ultimately, whether you are using any particular tool or technique of research, whatever tools you are using for data analysis, whatever apps you are using, the way you are presenting data, perhaps all will be useless or baseless unless we gather the right kind of data, unless we are confident about the purity or authenticity of the source of data. Perhaps everything will come later on. And obviously, from the point of view of integrity and from the purpose of the ethical standard also, it is very much important that source must be reliable or authentic. If you are carrying research where the data itself is questionable, if the data is obsolete, if they are not authentic, then it will very adversely affect your results and the entire research will be in question. So with this, we have covered this important aspect, that is what are the sources available for data collection. Nowadays, as Professor Rana Singh and Dr. Professor Andy Mathur also mentioned that nowadays, today, welcome, Professor Rana Singh. I was mentioning about you that you have talked about various apps, various tools day before yesterday. They are really useful, and I am now still remembering my time when I conducted my research around 3 decades ago, where our researches were very crude, and I really wish that perhaps if I would have done the same kind of research today, perhaps it would have been more authentic, perhaps, and it would have been more systematic. So what I discussed today is that source of data is very important. All the other aspects come later, but ultimately the focal point should be that you must gather the data in a very genuine manner using the various sources of data. So with that, I close here, but now your questions are invited. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. I request Dr. Modi to direct questions if they are any. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing us the depth of the knowledge about data collection. And first of all, I also welcome Professor Rana, sir, also. Welcome, Rana, sir. If someone asks live interaction, I can unmute him. Okay, Preeti Pandey. Yeah, Preeti Pandey. Preeti Pandey, you can ask. Sir, आप unmute कर लीजिए.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Good afternoon.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask, I am right now working on the topic role of role of microfinance in women empowerment. So just wanted to ask that my major the major target was the rural women's. Okay, but due to the lockdown and everything, I cannot go and do the survey and everything, and it is not possible for me to go for this online interview because they do not have access to mobile phones at times. So what
Right.
be the best possible thing to do right now?
I think there are some data is already available on this subject. What is the role of microfinance on women empowerment? So you can gather at this moment, since now from tomorrow onwards there will be some relaxation as far as the lockdown is concerned. So you can gather the secondary data first, and once the situation gets normalized, because this is the topic where unless you approach to the women in rural area, maybe you can wait for another 2-3 months. Hopefully, we really wish that the situation gets normalized. Then you can personally approach to these women who have really availed all these benefits. And again, I would emphasize here that you should go personally, because these women are not literate one, maybe semi-literate. So obviously in that case, you'll have to explain the questions personally, and preferably if you can translate your question into Hindi, that would be more appropriate.
Yes,
for
sir.
women.
Thank you
So
so
you
much.
can wait for some time to gather the primary data.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. डॉक्टर संजय कुमार जी. Yes, sir. आपका हाथ रेज मैंने देख लिया है, सर. Yes, please.
So I want to know, is there any correlation between number of question in a questionnaire and the sample size?
As far as the sample size is concerned and as far as the questions are concerned, I don't feel, because you will have to include all those questions in your questionnaire which are related with the research objective, and particularly the information that you have not been able to gather through the secondary data. But as a general principle, questionnaire should not be too lengthy or too concise, but it comprises of all the relevant questions.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one of the participants is asking, what should be the percentage of primary and secondary data in research process?
Again,
Shruti Sharma.
Yeah, Shruti, as far as the percentage of questions are concerned regarding primary and data, there is no hard and fast or the standard that this much percentage of questions should be in the primary data and this much from the secondary data. Again, it will be depending upon the nature of work. So there cannot be standardized between the proportion of primary data or the secondary data or the questions.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one of the participants, Juhi Chaturvedi, is asking, data collected from website by the researcher himself or herself, like pay policies, will it be primary or secondary?
As far as data collection from the website, if the information is available on internet or any website, so obviously it is a secondary data. It is not a primary data, certainly.
Thank you, sir. Shruti Sharma, I have asked your question. Madhukarji, you can ask. I have unmuted you. Madhukarji, yes.
Yes, sir.
Speak.
Thank you, sir. Hello, sir. Very good morning,
Yes.
sir.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
yes, we can hear you. Little bit high, please.
Sir, the information was very nice, sir, that you have presented. One question is that, sir, I'm interested to do the PhD with respect to entrepreneurship, sir. So, can you send me the very good topic which I can able to do it, sir, with regarding to entrepreneurship, sir.
You want that some topic be suggested in the field of entrepreneurship, right?
Yes, sir, in the field of entrepreneurship, which should be helpful.
What exactly your question is? You want certain research areas in the field of entrepreneurship? You want to know about some research areas?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What exactly the question is all about?
Sir, as I told you that I want to do the PhD work in entrepreneurship, which should be helpful to the common man, where today, like as you said, that research area, that one I want to know, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, in the field of entrepreneurship, there are number of research areas where you can carry your research. Like you can carry the research about the institutional assistance available to the entrepreneurs. That is, to what extent the entrepreneurs are availing these facilities and to what extent they are successful. You can carry research about the traits and qualities of which are really useful for becoming a successful entrepreneur. You can talk about, you can do research in the problems, particularly in your region or in a particular area as far as the entrepreneurship is concerned. Why, in spite of providing various facilities, benefits, and concessions, the government has not been able to develop entrepreneurship in particular region or area? That can be taken as a topic. And similarly, one of the very popular area in entrepreneurship is women entrepreneurship, their problems, what their prospects are. So that can be also done. You can do some study about the startups also, that is, what are the problems of startups nowadays, because government wants to promote the startups, then what problems they are facing. And apart from that, you can take industrial area, particularly what are the problems and prospects of industrial areas, particularly because industrial areas and estates provide a conducive environment for promotion of entrepreneurship. Are they really catering the need of the entrepreneurs? You can carry research about the first generation entrepreneurs also, that is, what are those areas where the young entrepreneurs can start their industry, what kind of problems they are facing. You can carry research in the field of entrepreneurial development programs also. As you know that at various levels, these ADPs are being organized, but to what extent, what the success rate? If 50 entrepreneurs are participating, if 50 prospective entrepreneurs are participating, then what is the success rate, and why, in spite of these motivational or orientation programs, they have not been able to start their industries? So number of areas can be undertaken.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one of my colleague, उन्नति परमार, इसका क्वेश्चन सर मुझे लेना पड़ेगा एक्चुअली में. इनका वाइवा है 1 महीने बाद. So she wants to know how to prepare for वाइवा.
Okay.
ये जरूर बताएं.
बड़ा अच्छा सवाल आपने पूछा है कि वाइवा के लिए प्रिपरेशन कैसे की जाए. As far as वाइवा is concerned, सबसे पहले तो जरूरी होगा कि before going for appear before the Viva, please read your thesis thoroughly, number one. Normally, the questions are asked that what really inspired you to take up this particular title of your research? What is the background of taking this particular study? What are your objectives of research? And through this work which you have done, to what extent you have been able to accomplish your objectives. You might have included 4, 5, or 6 objectives in your thesis. Please ensure that all the objectives have been adequately covered in the final results. Then what was your research methodology particularly? And you will have to justify the research tools that you have used in your research. What are your major findings? What suggestions you want to offer? What can be the future scope? That can be one of the questions that can be asked. What are the limitations of your research? And a question which is very often asked, that suppose if you have to carry the research, further research, then what topic you would like to take, or what are those areas which are still unexplored? And finally, according to you, what further, problems you face during your research, that can also be asked. So I am sure that if you just prepare these questions, you will be able to defend your Viva very well.
Thank you, sir. CA Kamakshi Mehta. Yes, you can ask. CA Kamakshi Mehta. Speak, please. Kamakshi Mehta.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Such an interactive and excellent session, sir. We have learned a lot today.
Thank you.
Question, sir, from my side is I'm a chartered accountant. I'm doing my PhD right now. And the topic which I've chosen is forensic audit.
Okay.
My guides have mentioned that I should do a mix of secondary and primary data.
Yeah.
So how should I draw out my objectives so that I can have a mix of both types of data?
What exactly the title of your research is all about? You are doing your research in forensic research. So what exactly the title is?
Forensic audit and its techniques in minimizing non-performing asset levels in India in public sector banks.
Okay. Basically, I believe that your research is mainly concerned to the basically the organizations who are using this forensic audit.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps the reports, the document which is available with these banks that you can gather, and apart from that, you can gather data through questionnaires, through the stakeholders of this forensic research. That is, what are their perception, whether the research being carried by these institutions, to what extent they are satisfactory or not, what are the shortcomings. So obviously a short questionnaire can be developed and designed, and that can be circulated to the stakeholder of forensic research.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, just a small addition to this, what I wanted to know was, say if I'm drafting 4 objectives, so I should be concentrating like the 2 objectives should concentrate on.
No, it's not necessary that there should be balance, that 50% from primary data or 50% from secondary data. I already mentioned that if you are satisfied and if you feel that your research will be useful and authentic, and if collecting a particular kind of data from a particular source is sufficient enough to justify your results, then as such there is no proportion of primary and secondary data. But as already mentioned, that if you could gather some information from the stakeholders through primary data like questionnaires and interviews, then certainly it will enhance the value or validity of your research. So there is no need that 1 objective or 2 objectives should be from primary data gathering and the list of the objectives should be met by the second data. As said, there is no hard and fast rule.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants to on their videos. And Dr. N. Purushottam. Yes, Dr. N. Purushottam, you can ask. You can ask your query. Yes, speak. Dr. N. Purushottam. What up? Dr. N. Purushottam, please ask. You have raised hand. Okay. Pratha.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, Pratha.
Yeah, your voice is slow. Speak loudly, please.
I am Partho Basu. I'm calling from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
And good afternoon and very nice program and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I am working on India's maritime security in Indian Ocean. And maritime security in Indian Ocean. That is my research topic. My question was that, qualitatively my research will be better if I can interact with some of the foreign scholars. And in current situation, it is difficult.
Yeah.
Is there a repository available anywhere from where I can get at least the email IDs of some of the scholars of foreign universities or foreign organizations through which I can contact them? Is it available, sir?
You can contact to the respective, you can just write a mail to the respective embassies. Okay. They can provide you the list of universities, okay, particularly the countries to which you want your responses. So just contact the respective embassies, and this information, I believe, is easily available also. Even if you just you will be searching on the Google, you will find the names of the university. There won't be any problem. And once you see the portal of that university, then perhaps you will get the names of respective faculty or head of department also. So there should be any problem in getting this.
Thank you so much for this suggestion. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, one of the participants is asking, Aarti Jolly, what should be the right sample size to conduct the research? How to identify that?
As far as the sample size is concerned, the purpose of sampling is that since you will not be able to approach to the entire universe, so sample is just the representative of the universe, and if you feel that whatever sample you have selected, it is adequately or truly representing the universe, and besides that, if you have checked the validity of the sample, then there cannot be any exact number as far as the sample is concerned. The only thing is that you will have to justify that it is truly, correctly, adequately representing the universe. And whatever results you have drawn through gathering the information from these samples, it is very significantly representing the true results. That is required only.
Thank you, sir. Juhi Chaturvedi, you can ask. Juhi Chaturvedi, please ask. Juhi Chaturvedi, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah. Please ask.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Actually, I really liked the session. I have two queries. One is related to the internal reliability of questionnaire. Now, reliability, as far as I know, is repeatability. Means the responses, if we again fill the questionnaire, the reply should be the same. But internal reliability, I read at a place that there were two questions, and two questions almost asked similar information, but in a different way. So with this internal reliability, actually we map whether the respondent is again is understanding the question well, and is he or she serious in answering the question. So is that true? And the other question is, what is the validity of Morgan's formula? Because based on that, we have decided the sample size for our questionnaire for data collection.
I'm not much familiar with this Morgan formula. If Professor Rana Singh or Professor Anil Mathur can help me out in replying this particular question. Professor Mathur, Professor Rana.
Yes, Professor Mathur sir, please. Sir, Mathur sir, please आप unmute कर लीजिए. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Rana sir.
Rana sir, please. Sir, unmute करिए. Yes. Now, yeah. That's okay.
Yes, please. Thanks. I think it's a wonderful question. Well, normally when we are talking about validation of our questionnaire, and she's talking about internal consistency. Well, we have been using Cronbach's alpha as a test, which is a statistical test, and normally any value above 0.6 and inching towards 0.1, inching towards 1, we consider it to be more reliable in terms of the internal consistency. I would like you to repeat the question once again. I just heard the first part of it.
Okay. Juhi, please repeat. Please repeat your question.
The question is basically, first was the related to internal reliability of the questionnaire. Now, I have read at one place that when we design a questionnaire, we give the respondents large number of questions, and sometimes in order to find the seriousness of the respondent, we try to put two questions,
Could you be louder,
but the
please?
answer is similar. So in order to test the internal reliability. So is that true? And the other question is validity of Morgan's formula. What is the validity?
Is it about sample size, Morgan's formula?
Yes, sir, for deciding the sample size.
Sample size, yes. In fact, you are talking about internal reliability checking. Yes, Rana sir has already told that Cronbach alpha is the test for checking the internal reliability. And regarding the Morgan's formula, you see that if you have the data regarding your universe, then you can obtain the sample size by this Morgan formula. What should be the appropriate sample size? This Morgan's formula will give you.
But sir, what about
you must have the data about your universe also.
But sir, validity, how will we find out that whether the sample size taken is correct? Means what is the authenticity of that?
Yes.
No authenticity has to be checked regarding sample size is concerned. Or the reliability is checked in case of questionnaire, but not in case of sample size. As Professor Mehta has already said that your sample should be representative sample. Sample should be such that it is representative, and when you have selected it through Morgan's formula, it will definitely be representative.
Very true.
Okay, last question. Now, last question from Reha Chopra. Yes, Reha Chopra, you can ask. Reha Chopra.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Reha and I'm an MBA student. So I've just started studying research. So my question is, it would be great if you can show me a mind map how to proceed further in research.
How
should I proceed further in research? Basically, I wanted a mind map. How should I further proceed?
Shall I answer her question?
Yes.
Regarding mind mapping,
sure. Since it relates to you, Professor Mathur.
If you are a new researcher,
yes,
you must start reading articles in the area where you want to do research. And even if the area is not known to you, then you read freelance articles on any subject. Once you go for reading the various articles of the journals, you will develop some interest that I want to do research in HR area or in marketing area or in finance area, और जिस चीज को आपको पढ़ना अच्छा लगे, आपको शाम को 5 बजे छुट्टी होने के बाद भी 4 आर्टिकल और पढ़ने की इच्छा हो, समझ लो वो एरिया आपको पसंद आ रहा है. That is important. And then you go for those articles and then note down certain things that what has started bothering you in marketing or HR or in finance or in IT, and what bothers you, you start finding answers of those problems, or start making perception about the problem. And whatever perception you make, that perception will become the hypothesis in your mind. And then you start thinking about it. Then you start all the process of research, your registration, and then your preparation stage, and incubation stage, and then intimation stage, and illumination stage, and then verification stage. But initially, you must go for extensive reading, review of literature in any area.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you so much.
And besides that, Professor Mathur, let me further add that as MBA student, as Professor Mathur has rightly said, that you do extensive reading. Apart from that, if you have some instinct, some aptitude in a particular stream of management, say HR or marketing, so in that case, for the purpose of research, you can narrow down and you can do some intensive reading in that particular subject domain also. And sometimes some research areas appear to be some very high sounding also. It appears that they are really researchable area, but if you have really aptitude to carry research in that area, then just gather some information also, whether you will be comfortable, you will be able to gather the data, maybe from primary source or secondary source or not. That is also important. So obviously, be open and have 3, 4, 5 important research topics in your mind, and then explore these areas. Talk to the experts in that area, read as much as, listen some good videos on these, see and listen some good videos or areas, and then narrow down your area to a particular problem. And then you can proceed for research.
Thank you so much, sir.
अभी मॉर्गन्स फार्मूला की बात चल रही थी, और सैंपल साइज की बात चल रही थी, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सैंपल की बात चल रही थी. नाउ जब हम ये देखते हैं कि चावल पक गया है कि नहीं, तो हमारा सैंपल साइज क्या होता है? Only a few rice, they are the representative samples. So it is not the size of the sample which matters. In fact, what matters is the representative size of the sample, and it may differ case to case, it may differ topic to topic. And Morgan's formula just help in deciding a sample size. And don't feel that if the sample size increases and it goes as closer to the universe, your results will be better. आप एक चावल देखिए, 20 चावल देखिए, सारे चावल देखिए, अगर पक गया है तो पक गया है वो, राइट?
इसलिए सवाल ये आया था कि सैंपल साइज कितना हो, ये इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है. वो एक चावल का दाना भी हो सकता है, but provided it truly represents कि चावल पक गया है.
It should be representative.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I invite Professor Rana Singh to speak some few words about the event. Vice Chancellor, Sanskrit University, Mathura. Professor Rana Singh, please.
Thank you. I would continue the answer to Riya Chopra. In fact, if she's listening, it would be a great opportunity for you to start focusing on using Google Advanced Search. So once you start using Google Advanced Search, and you can look for research papers on the topics of your choice, and in the file type, you can select PDF, and you can look for specific countries, USA or something. That would be great. So thank you very much. On this note, I would take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks to Shri S.S. Modi ji and Ravi Modi ji together. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate them from the inner core of my heart for doing such a wonderful and successful event. I would also like to express my apologies for not being able to attend yesterday, because yesterday I was speaking at Vinoba Bhave University in Hazaribagh. So my apologies for the same. And let me express my heartfelt thanks to ND Mathur sir and Anil Mehta sir for such insightful views, because I could go through the video which was shared by Mr. Raviji. And it was a great learning experience from both of you, Andy Mathur sir as well as Anil Mehta sir. What I could really learn, in fact, at times I'm very fast when I'm speaking. So after today's deliberation of Anil Mehta sir, I realized that if we keep the pace slightly slower, it's slightly more effective and it's better to reach. So it's a great learning experience. So thank you very much. And all the participants, I congratulate you for being so passionate about attending the faculty development program. I would conclude on only one note, that we as teachers, we need to become lifelong learners, and every day is a new day for us to continue our learning. So I wish you a great learning ahead and great research career and great publication orientation in the times to come. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful words, sir. Thank you so much. Now I invite Professor Andy Mathur, sir, to speak few words. Professor Mathur, sir.
Professor Modi, Mr. Ravi Modi, Professor Rana, Professor Anil Mehta Sahab. This FDP or MDP program, it was a wonderful program. I enjoyed it a lot. Professor Rana's lecture, I learned many new things. Professor Mehta's lecture, I learned good things about the data collection today. Syndicate, I learned about the new term, the syndicate data, that you can purchase the data also, secondary data, which I never knew, that some syndicate data term is also there. So I'm extremely thankful to all the speakers and all the participants. Friends, I'll share a few experiences of my life when I was a researcher. I went, my supervisor was Professor Om Prakash, who was former Vice Chancellor of the Rajasthan University and Dean of the Faculty of Commerce. And I remember a few incidents that when I went to him with my, I was a junior research fellow of the UGC, and those were the those were the times when 400 rupees is the junior research fellowship. And when I told him that please sign my bill of 400 rupees so that I can get a scholarship, he said, investment without production creates inflation. Produce something first. Bring some chapters. Bring some research papers. Then only I'll sign the bill. So productivity is very important. Number one. Ethics is very important. This is the ethics in research, honesty in research is very important. This was the one message to me. Then second message came to me when I went to him and gave my chapters of research. Then I wrote in first person that according to me, according to me, according to me, और उन्होंने सब गोले कर दिए और उन सब के sources बता दिए कि it is not according to you, it is according to somebody else. So we must have proper evidences, we must have proper references where from we have taken. And the third message to me was when I quoted the persons that in one chapter I had quote Harold Hoteling at least 25 times. So he said 75% of your PhD will go to Harold Hoteling, not to you. You will only get 25% PhD. Are you agree for this? So when you quote people, you must remember that at least what is your contribution. In research, what is more important is that your original contribution must come out somewhere, that what is your piece of research. And these three messages always keep in mind, that productivity and ethics and honesty is very important, sources are very important, and your own piece of research is very important. Then Professor Rana's lecture I heard, and he gave many new things about tools and techniques of research, which I was not known. I was not having information about them, knowledge about them, especially in business research, what are the new changes and new technologies are available. He talked about real-time data, and then he showed the portals also. And it was wonderful experience to see him speaking on those areas, which were very new areas, quite new areas. And Professor Rana, you know, he is the Vice Chancellor at Mathura, but he gives a very ordinary appearance. I would say about him, कोई लगा ना सका उसके कद का अंदाजा, वो आसमां था पर सर झुका के चलता था. Professor Rana, this is in honor of you. Professor Anil Mehta Sahab is a good friend. I used to call him Peter F. Drucker of Rajasthan. And Professor Mehta is a great friend also. We share a 35 years friendship from Rajasthan University. आजकल के दोस्त क्या है, जिस तरह कागज के फूल देखने में खुशनुमा है पर वफा कुछ भी नहीं. But we have shared a very good friendship throughout the life. And Professor Mehta is a great friend, is a great person. Or Professor Modi and Mr. Ravi, they both have worked very hard for this FDP program and this program, and they have given us a wonderful experience, and especially all the participants, the learned participants, because a program extends and grows with the curiosity, and the kind of curiosity they have shown by their intelligent questions and brilliant questions which they have raised, that has encouraged us for gaining further knowledge. We also know we don't know many things. I came to know about Morgan's formula today, or came to know about syndicate data today, or many business research, many areas which Rana Sahab discussed. And even we have heard many things from the participants which is new to us. But it is a process. A good teacher is one who is always a student, and that the day we ceases to be a student, we ceases to be a teacher too. And we should always be a student. अगर आप रात को 11 बजे किसी बड़ी बिल्डिंग के सामने से निकलें और कुछ घरों की बत्तियां जलती हुई मिले, तो आप समझ लीजिए कि इस घर में कोई रिसर्चर रहता है, या कोई स्टूडेंट रहता है, या कोई टीचर रहता है, who is preparing for his next morning lecture or for his research. Friends, with this, I'll close by an Urdu couplet. कि उजाले अपनी यादों के मेरे साथ रहने दो, न जाने किस गली में जिंदगी की शाम हो जाए. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request Professor Anil Mehta, sir, to speak few words. Professor Mehta, sir. Unmute कर लीजिए, sir.
These अभी म्यूट ही है, नहीं हो गया? नहीं, अभी नहीं. Hello, am I audible? Hello?
नहीं sir, अब हो गया. Yes.
Yeah. What a great learning experience this was. 3 days workshop, FDP or MDP. In fact, on day 1, while listening to Professor Rana, perhaps it was a big feast for me. And I really started now surfing on net about all these apps and the facilities which are available for research. Now at this age, after teaching for more than 4 decades, now Professor Rana has really generated a great trust for me for the researches. I want to learn all the tools and techniques that you discussed on that particular day. I don't know to what extent I'll be successful at this stage now, but it was a wonderful session. Professor N.D. Mathur, a very, very intimate friend of mine. We have an association of more than now 3 decades, almost now approaching to the 4th decade rather. Every time, whenever Professor Mathur addressed anywhere, I try my best to attend that particular program. And I always admire his oration. I always learn something new from Professor N.D. Mathur. जिंदगी में प्रोफेसर एन.डी. माथुर ने मुझे बहुत सिखाया है, और अक्सर ये कहा करते हैं कि डॉक्टर मेहता, जब भी अच्छे अवसर आए जीवन में उनका लाभ उठाओ, क्योंकि अवसर एक बार जो निकल गया दोबारा नहीं आता. I always enjoy his शेर व शायरी. कल भी कुछ ऐसा ही हुआ. क्रिएटिविटी को आपने रिसर्च से जिस तरह से जोड़ा, और जिस तरह से आपने सिस्टमैटिक अप्रोच से आपने बताया, फ्रॉम हाइपोथेसिस टू रिसर्च, इट वाज a great learning experience for me. आज जिस तरह के सवाल आप लोगों ने पूछे, ये भी अपने आप में एक बड़ा ही सुखद अनुभव था। और एक सवाल के बारे में मैं श्योर नहीं था और मैंने वो जो सवाल था वो राणा साहब को और माथुर साहब को डायरेक्ट किया. So it was a great learning experience for me these 3 days. I am really grateful to Professor S.S. Modi and Dr. Ravi Modi from the bottom of my heart for organizing this workshop. And now organizing this workshop by Modi's, I would say that now it has raised my expectations from you, both of you, sirs. And now I'm expecting that you will be continuing this momentum and will be organizing many, many more workshops. So once again, I am grateful to all the participants today. I'm thankful to Professor N.D. Mathur, Professor Rana, Professor Modi. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful words. With the help of you all, yes, we will organize great workshops, FDPs more. Now, I request Professor Dr. Rajiv Srivastav, sir, to give vote of thanks on behalf of LBS PG College. Rajiv, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
With today's lecture, we conclude the 3-day online faculty development program and management development program on research methodology, tools and techniques. I, Dr. Rajiv Srivastav, on behalf of LBS PG College Jaipur and Inspira Research Association Jaipur, would like to thank everyone for participating in the webinar series. While I conclude this lecture series, I would like to remind everyone of a very famous quote by Albert Einstein, which goes like this: intellectual growth should start at birth and should only stop with death. I hope everyone that participated in these sessions will never stop finding opportunities for learning. Today's session on methods of data collection for research was indeed intellectually enriching. I would like to thank our speaker, Professor Dr. Anil Mehta. It was a very stimulating lecture and we are extremely grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences. An ignited mind is the most powerful weapon on the earth, above the earth and under the earth. And this is not got through education. Nothing can compare to the learning everyone received over the course of 3 days. I would like to take a moment and appreciate all the speakers, Professor Rana Singh, Professor N.D. Mathur, Professor Anil Mehta ji, and also the participants for creating interactive sessions and making sure they made the most out of the lecture. I would also like to thank everyone who worked really hard behind the scenes to make this webinar series a success. I would like to thank Professor S.S. Modi and Dr. Ravikant Modi, who worked really hard to make sure this webinar was a success and making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. Never stop learning, for when we stop learning, we stop growing. I hope everyone will continue to grow and not let the uncertainty in the times of pandemic let you slow down. Hope to see you all soon. Have a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. From the participants, if from the participants somebody wants to ask something, wants to speak something about the event, they can speak. Please raise your hands by clicking the hand icon. Yes, Madhukar. Yes, Madhukar ji.
Hello,
yes,
sir.
Madhukar
Can you hear me? Can you
yeah.
hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Sir, it was a nice program. So from 3 days, I would like to congratulate Professor Modi sir and you also sir personally.
Thank you sir.
And also my special thanks to all three resource persons sir who gave me opportunity personally to know something about research. And also my special thanks to Mathur sir. So I have become a fan of Mathur sir. So yesterday the session was very nice. Even after the program I felt so bad. The program was over. So after the session sir, if I want to reach him to know more about research, is there any possible sir? Like maybe sir mail ID or maybe
I will give you mail ID of Mathur sir. Okay, don't worry.
Thank you sir.
Thank you so
much sir again sir. Sir, and one more thing sir, please organize again FDP or MDP sir, or any other webinar session sir.
Yes,
so
yes,
it will be better sir for us.
Yes, we are trying our best. We will try our best. Thank you.
Thank you sir. Thank you.
Can we take more participants sir? One or two if anyone is. Neha Agarwal. Neha Agarwal ji, you can speak. Neha Agarwal ji. She is not. Preeti Pandey ji.
Hello.
Yes, Preeti ji.
Yes, thank you so much, Ravi sir. You have been very much, very much prompt and responding the messages on WhatsApp and receiving the calls. And thank you so much to all three resource person who have been very much insightful to all of us. And we are really looking forward for such more webinars from your side. And I yesterday received a mail from your side about, I guess that was some journal related thing. So I'm definitely giving it a chance, and I'll be doing all the payment and everything. So thank you so much. So thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. One last, Dr. Aarti Chopra, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Namaskar, all of you. I am really glad that I have been a part of this 3 days FDP MDP. Truly, it was such a great learning experience. And see, Friday and Saturday were free for me, but yesterday we had little meeting, a small meeting in the college, and I was really worried that how I would attend Professor N.D. Mathur sir's lecture, because I did not want to skip, I did not want to miss any of the 3 lectures, because all the 3 professors are unique, and they are actually the research legends. They all are the legends. So I did not want to miss them, and I am so glad that I did not miss even a single lecture. For Professor Rana, I would like to say the poetry which was told by Professor N.D. Mathur sir, it was so wonderful, and it really suits his personality, because the topic he has chosen is so relevant and so insightful. And at the same time, I wish to say that we are learning these things at this age. But I am really happy for the students, because you have made it a MDP. So I'm really happy for the students who are doing their graduation or post-graduation, or they are new research scholars. The topic which Professor Mehta has taken, how to collect the data, it is, I think, the first thing which comes to the mind of researcher when he starts doing the research. So very, very insightful topic Professor Mehta has taken, and the way he speaks, he connects with the audience very well. And I am really thankful to the organizers, Professor S.S. Modi sir and Dr. Ravikant Modi, for organizing such a wonderful event. It was very insightful, and it was a great learning experience for all of us. Thank you so much once again for organizing it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I request Professor S.S. Modi sir, President, Inspira Research Association, to speak few words to give vote of thanks on behalf of Inspira Research Association. Yes.
Good afternoon, dear friends. On behalf of Inspira Research Association and LBS PG College, I am thankful to all of you, all the participants, our great resource persons, Professor Dr. Rana Singh, Professor Dr. N.D. Mathur, Professor Dr. Anil Mehta, for delivering their presentations so nicely and informative. For that, everybody has enlightened and updated on the subject, research methodology, tools and techniques. We are so grateful to you all for with us today's session. I am very thankful to Professor Rana, Vice Chancellor, Sanskriti University, Professor N.D. Mathur Sahab, Manipal University, and Professor Dr. Anil Mehta Sahab, Banasthali University, at present with us today. Evidence about it is comments received in chat box and comment boxes of Zoom and YouTube Live, and also received on WhatsApp and on mail and in person also. I am very grateful and thankful to all the three respected renowned professors for sparing time for us. Many participants are approaching us to listen again and again to all of you in short time, for which we are planning to have a 3-day FDP MDP once again on a very useful topic for all researchers, students, faculty members in the last week of June. Details will be sent very soon. I also thank Dr. Rajiv Srivastava, Co-Chair FDP MDP, Principal LBS PG College Jaipur, and Vice President Inspira Research Association, who is a great academician and administrator, under whom leadership LBS PG College has made a tremendous progress in various fields of academic activities and extracurricular activities. I also thank all learned faculty members, Dr. Ranjula Jain, Dr. Aarti Chopra, Dr. Simi Choyal, Dr. Anupam Jain, Dr. Kirti Rawat, Dr. Krishna Kumar ji, Dr. Nitin Raj, Madhukar ji, Juhi Chaturvedi, Preeti Pandey, and all who have supported us directly or indirectly to make success of our academic events. Thanks to all of you once again. Jai Hind. Thanks.
Thank you so much once again. I am thankful to all the participants from all over the country. Professor, I will like to thank Professor Rana Singh, Professor N.D. Mathur sir, Professor Anil Mehta sir once again, Dr. Rajiv sir once again, my friends Anupam ji, Kishmon ji, Kirti ji, Ashok Kumar ji, Manguram ji, Ranjula ma'am, Aarti ma'am. I am thankful to everyone. Now I am sharing the last assignment for you participants, the assignment number 3, the link of assignment number 3 and the feedback link also. I am sharing in the chat box of Zoom and YouTube live comment box, and I will share these assignment links on WhatsApp group also. And if anybody didn't get, they can WhatsApp me for this. So please wait for 5 minutes.
थैंक यू सर. आप कॉपी के लिए बोल रहे हैं क्या? आवाज जा रही है क्या?
Yes, here's the link I have shared with you all participants. You can copy these links and paste it in a blank form, word form. Assignment number 3 and link of feedback form. And all these assignments, assignment 1, 2, 3, and this along with this feedback form link, these are mandatory to submit by all the participants to eligible for e-certificate. I'm also sending this link on YouTube live comment. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, all of you. Now I am ending the meeting. We will meet soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.